What is up, my ninjas? Shinobi here, and today I'm bringing you guys a Path of Exile video for the Flashback League, which is coming up tomorrow, as of this video being made and being posted up on YouTube. That's going live, I believe, at 6 p.m. EST on Friday the 3rd, which I will be streaming that and looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. I've had a lot of viewers in my stream ask me about the Blade Vortex build that I've been playing in Incursion and really been enjoying playing this build. Now, Elemental Blade Vortex is nothing new. It's something that a lot of people have done, and a lot of people have their variations on how they want to do it. And there's only a few things you can tweak here and there for your own personal liking, but what I thought I would do to help those people out, and maybe some people on YouTube that are thinking about leveling as Blade Vortex in the Flashback League, because it's going to be a very solid build to be able to do, I thought that I would show you guys a setup here, a POB, a path of building, which will be found in the description down below, which will give you all the information that you need to help you in the process from start to finish, from level 1 to level 100, all that good stuff. So I am going to go through and explain all of this stuff in the video. And yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. So when you open up the path of building, you will see down here that I have the levels set up for you already. So level 20, showing you you're going to be coming here, and then level 60, level 40, level 80, and then the full tree, right? So I have all of that set up already for you, but I am going to go through and explain all of this. So we'll get to the items, we'll get to the skills that you'll be using, but let's start off with a tree first. So you'll be playing a witch, right? You want to play an elementalist, but you're going to start off using, while you're leveling up, you're going to use arc. You can start with like freeze pulse right off the bat, firestorm, arc. I do suggest arc. I do think it's really really good for leveling. And we'll be starting off right over here. We'll be grabbing these spell damage nodes right off the bat, coming up to occultist, coming up and getting elemental overload. This build, this variation is a non-crit version, much easier to be able to build the character for cheap, right? This is a type of character that you can build really cheap, and then you can scale it up and make it even better and do more damage and such. It's also important to remember that this build for Blade Vortex, this is not, like, this one in particular is not for going to kill Shaper. It's not for going to kill Uber Elder. This is for your first character of the league. You want a character that's going to be able to farm maps quickly, be able to farm currency quickly, do your Uber labs pretty safely. This character can do all of those things. Lots of mobility, lots of survivability, just a lot of stuff. So it's important to remember that going through this. Now, you can, if I put this onto, say, if I put it onto 100 with a bright beak on, which is what's used for mapping, we're at like 831k DPS, and we switch this to here, we're at like 1.25 million. So you could do, Uber Elder, Shaper with this, and if I were to change this to Shaper, it's going to drop it down to about 500-600k. If we put this weapon on, we're going to be at like 900k, which is not too bad for having 7,000 life, a lot of evasion, and just a lot of survivability in general. So yeah, it's important to remember that as we go through this. But this character is most likely going to be your character you're going to use for like farming and getting stuff going. But anyways, with that to the side, let's get back to this here. So starting off with arc, coming down, getting elemental overload, coming down this way, getting precision early. Now remember, you are an int class, essentially, that is, your main skill is Veil Blade Vortex, which is a dexterity thing. So getting as much dex as we can early is going to be beneficial. Getting some on your gear, getting some in the skill tree, that's going to be beneficial for you to level up your Blade Vortex even more. Now, but we are arc right now still, right? We are arc, but we're just kind of getting ourselves ready. So we're around level 20. So I believe it's level 18, or 16, you get faster casting. I think it's like 18 or 16, one of those two. You could switch to Blade Vortex right now, but it's going to feel a little awkward. I would suggest switching to Blade Vortex from Arc at around like 38 when you get Spell Echo. That's going to make things a little bit more comfortable, and we're going to have some of this stuff here. So we'll switch to the 40 tree now. Now, keep in mind, when I say level 40, I'm talking, this is assuming that you're going to get some of the passive skill points along the way as well. So this is level 40, but you have a couple extra points here for, you got some skill points essentially. So yeah, so here, once we got all this area, we're going to come over, we're going to get our first jewel socket. So you can get from questing, you get a jewel called Assassin's Haste, I believe it is. And it gives you like mana regen, it gives you attack speed, cast speed. It's a pretty nice jewel to get in the early parts of your character before you can actually get the really good ones and all that. So so I would suggest maybe plopping that in here in the early parts. So coming down, getting Devolution. And then we come back this way, and we're going to head down now to get down to Shaper and also Potency of Will. So this is going to, at this point now, we got a little bit of mana regen. Maybe we got some on our gear as well. And we're doing a little bit of decent damage. And we're around, we just got Spell Echo. So we can comfortably switch to Blade Vortex at this point, and it will feel pretty good. You'll be around Aqueduct at this point, and you'll be able to farm out some XP there and then move on throughout the story, throughout the acts. But then we're going to start moving towards this way. So then we're going to switch it up to level 60. So coming this way, you could, I didn't put this here, you could opt to get Blast Radius earlier. This is going to give you some nice area damage, which would be helpful for bosses. Use your own discretion. If you feel like your damage is a little low, then maybe opt to get this before moving towards this direction. It's only 3 points to go from here. Now also, when I say get Blade Vortex around this time, Veil Blade Vortex would be preferred. Now I know it's going to be a little difficult in the beginning of a league because things are going to be more expensive. There's only going to be so many items that are up on PoE trade, but it's important to try to get that as quickly as you can, not only because you can start leveling it, but also because Veilblade Vortex is really nice for bosses and sticky situations where you just literally use that, you collect the souls, you use your Veilblade Vortex, and it just does crazy damage to whatever. It makes leveling so much easier is what I'm trying to say. So if you can get Veilblade Vortex early on, highly recommend that. So we're coming towards this way now, and we're going to come up and get a little bit of this life here, and we can come down and get a little bit of this stuff over here. It's going to give us a little bit more dex, a little bit more evasion, and kind of just get us ready for the higher levels. So we are, you know, like I said, we are Blade Vortex now, hopefully Veil Blade Vortex, and we're moving into this area now. So this is when we're going to get this area here. So this will come, we get this area here, come over, get another jewel socket, come down and get your phase acrobatics. So at this point, so this is like level 86 in points. So you'll probably be just starting to do mapping. Like you just are grinding Blood Aqueduct to get your tabula, which is highly recommended to do. You should grind an Aqueduct from 30 to 40 and then go do the rest of the acts and such. And then from 60 to 70 or so, maybe even 75, grind there to get your tabula as well. So you can get those humility cards to get your tabula, and that's what you'll want to use before you get your Impulsa's chest piece. So around this time, you're going to have phase acrobatics, you're going to have your tabula, hopefully, and then you're going to be moving on to maps, right? So this is going to be good to have phase acrobatics at this point. It's also important to remember that I did grab another jewel slot over here. So at this point, you have 3 jewel slots, I believe. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. You'll have 3 at this point, and you can get some extra added damage and life and stuff there. Now we're moving on to the full tree, and this is when we're going to move on. So after we get phase acrobatics, we're going to come over and get Revenge of the Hunted. This is going to give us some life and some evasion, which is nice. Gives lots of survivability. And then we're going to move up to this area and grab another jewel slot, and grab some nice resistances here and some life, and then also picking up your quick recovery and your life wheel around here. Now, like I said earlier, if you were level Windows 10, if you were level 40 and you said, okay, I need a little bit more life, you can come down, you can grab Constitution, maybe grab a couple more of these life nodes. Remember, you are going to get some life up here as well, and you're going to get some life over here as well. So Not super important to get the life wheel super early, but it really depends on how you're struggling with trying to get some more survivability in your gear. It really depends on the items you find, if you're playing solo self-found, or even if you're playing Treg League, you know, if you're just not getting very lucky with loot or whatever, then, you know, you can make those conscious changes if you want to. Now, I also need to keep in mind here that I have this set up for you too. So here is your Ascendancy up here. So when this is going to be your normal, so normal lab, you're going to do Shaper of Desolence. That's what you're going to get. And then your Cruel lab, you're going to have Beacon of Ruin. Beacon of Ruin, I prefer to go with first. Some people like to go with Mastermind of Discord first, but I prefer to go with Beacon of Ruin. You get a lot more damage, a lot better for mapping and such, especially when you're grinding like Blood Aqueduct around this point. You know, I like to have it. Then we're moving on next to our Merciless Lab getting Pendulum, and then Uber Lab getting Mastermind of Discord. Now, we do use a Triple Herald setup, but you don't use a Triple Herald setup until you get Mastermind of Discord. Until then, you're going to use Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. Then you add in Herald of Ash later on when you get the Mastermind of Discord. So that's all of the tree right there. If you have any more questions about the tree, let me know in the comments down below. I also forgot to mention one last thing here now that I'm thinking of it. So when you do get Mastermind of Discord, you complete your Uber Lab, then you want to make sure you get these over here: Celestial Judgment, Celestial Punishment. This is going to be over on this area. This is going to be really nice. It couples really nicely with that, so you'll get this around that period as well. Now let's go ahead and move into the skills that we'll be using. I guess we can talk about next. So all of these are set up for you, so you don't have to change anything around. And so we're talking about the chess piece here. Okay, so chess piece, triple green, triple blue is how I like to run it. It's something I've had a lot of done really well with, done pretty much all the content with, and in the previous league and incursion. But I do want to preface a few things talking about the chess piece socket here. So we are using Veiled Blade Vortex, as we said. Physical to Lightning, Controlled Destruction, and Ice Bite are going to be your 4-link. Okay, that's going to be your 4-link, and then your 5-link is going to be Veiled Blade Vortex, Physical to Lightning, Controlled Destruction, Hypothermia, and Ice Bite. Now, you could opt to switch out Hypothermia for an Onslaught gem, which is also very nice for leveling and for mapping and such. So you could do that if you're doing like lower maps and things like that. You could put an Onslaught gem in there, but I got you covered on that, so you don't need to do that. But yes, leveling with Onslaught gem is definitely nice and makes things much quicker. Now moving on to the 6 socket, the 6 link, which is not super important to use. Even if you get a Tabula, most likely you're only going to use 5 link for it, because 6 link might be a little too costly in mana, so you're most likely just still end up using a 5 link. And same thing goes for Impulsas for a while until your character starts getting more established. So 6 link, I added in Concentrated Effect here. I really like Concentrated Effect. You don't really see a lot of people using it with this. The reason why I like it is because, for one, I don't want to do any gem swapping. I just want one setup that I can just use for everything, and this is what I use for everything. So Concentrated Effect is really nice because we get a lot of damage. Like, look at how much damage here. Like, look at my damage drop, like 400k DPS when I'm using my stat stick weapon in my slot here. With Brightbeak, I lose like 290 or something. Yeah, 291. So Concentrated Effect is nice because, let's say you're doing a map and you go through the map, you're up to red maps now, right? You got a 6 link Impulsa, you're doing red maps, you're going through quickly, and you can even do red maps with a 5 link Impulsa, but I'm just saying hypothetically here. So with a 6 link Impulsa, you know, you're going through the map, you're killing everything, and you get to the boss, then you're going to throw your Veiled Blade Vortex at it, pop your Flasks, and Concentrated Effect's going to give you some nice added single target damage, and you can swap to your damage weapon at that point. And you don't even really need to, really. Like, when you're up to like 900k DPS, 700k DPS with a Brightbeak, you don't even need to weapon swap at that point when you're doing like you know, a So we don't have to worry about that weapon. I think that it's more in, like this kind of weapon where you get, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about the items in a second because I know you're probably a little confused over what some of this looks like. I have to explain it. Yeah, you could use a Brightbeak for pretty much everything, especially when you start really getting your damage up there. You're not gonna. I would only switch to like a DPS weapon. If I was saying doing Uber Azario, because when you go into a Uber Azario, you lose the souls before you go into that fight encounter, so you won't have Veiled Blade Vortex, which does hurt a little bit for DPS. So swapping to your DPS weapon, you jump on. I kill him in like 2 seconds. Like, it's really fast. So, and yeah, and that's with me like moving around and stuff like that. And anyway, so yeah, this is pretty much your 6-link setup. Concentrated effect you could swap out for something else, up to you, and something that might be more comfortable for you. Some people like to use increased duration because it allows your Veiled Blade Vortex to last longer, which is nice because if you look right here, I mean, it's a lot of damage the Veiled Blade Vortex is added on top of your damage already. So keep in mind, when you're looking at this damage, you're looking at this damage plus for your single target, you're also looking at this damage. It's actually much higher. And it's a lot of burst damage, and does most of the stuff you want to do anyway. But anyway, six link setup. Moving on to the gloves, so these are going to be using the Hrimsorrow gloves, which are dexterity-based gloves. So very easy to get these color links. So we're using green, 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 blue. So Herald of Ice, Innervades, Hypothermia, and Ice Bite. Just beefs up your Herald of Ice very nicely. Then on the helmet, we're using a red, 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 green. Now, this is going to be Shield Charge, Fortify, Faster Attacks, Blood Magic. Blood Magic, I believe, is level 31 requirement, so you have to wait a little bit to get that. And you don't even have to go Blood Magic. You could go green, green, red, red instead. Swap out the Blood Magic and go with Veiled Grace, and use it as a cooldown for survivability. That's something that I do on my other character, but if you having a little bit of mana issues, you could opt to go with Blood Magic to help you out a little bit. But the way that the character works, you don't even really need Blood Magic, but you know, it's just there just in case for you. Then looking at the boots here. Now, I did put over here that these boots are evasion-based boots, and yes, there's no green here. It's red, red, blue, blue, which is trickier to do, right? So if you do have to get some armor boots or whatever, some strength int boots, that's fine, you know, but this is very nice because you're going to have your Herald of Thunder, your Herald of Ash, coupled with Curse on hit into Warlord's Mark. So nice combination there between those. And then on the first weapon, our main hand weapon, our Brightbeak, we have Immortal Call, Warlord's Mark, and Cast when damage taken. You could switch out Warlord's Mark here for getting... This just helps you get more life more frequently, get more mana more frequently, having 2 Warlord's Marks. But you could swap that out for increased duration to make your Immortal Call last longer. Then over on your other weapon, this is completely optional. You don't have to do this, but it's up to you. You have Summon Lightning Golem with minion resistances and minion life. It's had some nice little single target, and Lightning Golem's nice because you get some attack speed and cast speed. So overall, it's a nice little thing to have. But you could, you know, get creative with it. You could put some other thing. You could put something else there if you wanted to. It's up to you. Not super important. And then yeah, that's pretty much all the skills there. So then moving over to the items. So we have in our first weapon slot, for majority of things that you do, you're going to use Brightbeak. Now, Brightbeak's level requirement is level 20. So if you can get one early, then that's awesome. Switch to Blade Vortex early and start doing that. You'll be bebopping through the map. You are going to be using Shield Charge, remember. So it just, Brightbeak's so nice. You just move so quickly. It just helps so much for efficiently. It's a really cheap way to move quickly, essentially. Now, as far as rolls go on these items, I will have to explain a little bit of that. Attack speed and crit chance are always the same on Brightbeaks. Don't really care too much about the physical damage increase. You just want a Brightbeak. That's pretty much all you care about. Higher resistances are nice, but like whatever, right? And they come with the fire and lightning resist already. So they are nice, but you know, it's not a huge concern. Brightbeak will be used, like I said, for most things. In the beginning of a league, it'll be tough to get your hands on a Brightbeak because it'll be a highly sought after item, but later in the league, they'll be like super cheap, like 1 Chaos or like an Alchemy or something on softcore anyways, on Trade League. So, but like I said, if you do swap to a weapon like this for helping you do some bosses, make you feel a little bit more comfortable because you're doing more damage, then the only thing you want to look at here that matters, because the other stuff is just I had to craft an item and I just put in random stuff there, whatever. But getting an item like this is going to be ridiculous, so don't even think, you know. So something like this is mainly what you're looking for is physical damage as extra. Just 2 of those. Could be extra fire, cold, lightning, chaos. Could be like any of those. But just getting 2 of those. So farming the shape influence maps pretty early into the league. Trying to get one of these pretty early would be really nice. You could either sell it for a lot, or you could use it for those kind of boss situations. But like I said, you don't really need to have that weapon with a setup like this. Now moving to the helmet, we are using the Starkonja's head. Starkonja's cheap, easy item to get. It does a lot of good things for you. It gives you attack speed, gives you life, gives you global crit chance, which we aren't a crit build, but it does help. And then gives you evasion, and then more evasion as a survivability thing when you're low life. Now, Starkonja is added on here for some more survivability. You don't have to go with Starkonja though, because you'll notice on the belt I'm using a Stygian Vise, which is a good belt to have. But let's say you wanted to go with the Bisco's Leash belt for extra farming, you're doing lower maps, whatever. Then you could switch out to Starkonja for a like a resist helmet, and you can just go that direction. So Starkonja, you know, some people will use it, some people won't. It's up to you. And now the offhand weapon, I forgot to mention because I skimmed over it really quickly. Now I did for shields. The main things that matter are going to be like life, evasion, maybe some resist if you're playing on hardcore, maybe some spell damage if you want some extra added damage. But yeah, just use this as kind of a template as to this is some of the stuff you can do, but you don't necessarily have to. So the only items that are super crucial on this list are going to be the Brightbeak for mapping and such, for farming, the Impulsive Chest, and the Hrimsorrel Gloves. Everything else you can kind of mess around with. You can follow this if you want to, or you can do it your own way, whatever balances out better for you. So moving on next to the Impulsive chest piece. So with the Impulse, it's going to be a highly sought after item in the beginning of the Flashback League. We saw the power of it in Incursion, people getting like level 100 first with Elementalist Blade Vortex. And Impulsa is a very good item. You can get away with a Tabula for a long period of time, but an Impulse is going to take you to that next level and really, really help you out with those nice explosions and just blowing everything up, and it's super awesome. Now, what I would suggest with Impulsa for trying to get that early in the league is to, if you can find one, cool, okay. If you can buy one, right, for a decent price, even if it has no sockets, no links, try to socket it, try to 5-link it at least. If you get 6, even better. But at least try to get a 5-link Impulsa, whether you do it that way, or you just find one, or you just straight up buy a 5-link, depending on how, you know, how lucky you get with like currency that you find and stuff like that. So yeah, whatever way you can get it early, you know, if you have to do some favors for your friend or something, you know, underneath the table, you know, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that if, whatever you got to do to get one, try to get one. Okay. So moving on to the next thing, the gloves here. Hrimsorrel Gloves, they only require level 9. You can use these pretty early on, which is nice, and these will be really cheap later on too. In the beginning, they'll probably be a little bit more pricey, but they'll come down to like an alchemy or whatever. And this gives you, you know, some nice stuff here, some converting your physical to cold, and then we already have over here converting, you know, your physical to lightning, so you're all good in that area. Then moving on to boots. So boots here, just went ahead and picked up, like I said before, you don't have to get evasion boots because it's going to be hard to get the colors you need for your boots. So what you could do is, you know, so just ignore the evasion on here. But the main thing that matters is the life, the resist, and the movement speed, 30%. the main stuff that matters. If you can't get triple resist on this, just get double resist. You know, just get like fire and cold and movement and life, and that's it. And then try to make up for it in other areas. Then moving on to the amulet, I highly recommend getting a shape amulet because you get the gain extra physical damage as extra cold. Get a little bit of mana regen you can on here. You can get a little bit of resist as well. Get some dexterity. That would be nice to have for an implicit. And then some life as well. So those are just some stats to think about, right? But mainly, if you're not going to get the physical damage as extra cold, then just use your amulet as fixing your items, essentially. Getting some extra dexterity that you needed, getting some extra life that you needed, maybe some extra resist, mana regen that you needed, or maybe you get like a spell damage one or something. You know, just whatever you can fit in there. Moving on to the rings. So this is if you're scaling up the damage here. So I'm using a Mark of the Shaper ring. The reason why we like this is because of the added lightning damage, the elemental damage, the life percent, and if you're using an Elder Ring, you get spell damage increase, which we are using an Elder Ring. So it's a nice combination between those two. You don't have to go that direction. You could opt to go for something like, you could opt to go for, you know, just some rings that are going to fix things for you, like some life, some resist, some, you know, evasion, some added spell damage if you can, things like that. You could use that temporarily until you get to something like this, and that's a good combination between the two. Over here with our implicit, we have like the fire lightning resist implicit with a little bit of dexterity, little evasion, little life, little mana regen. This is kind of an example of what you would look for rings if you're not going to go with this combo setup, but because this is an elder item, I'm able to get added fire damage to spells and attacks on here. So I did opt to go for that because remember we do damage in 3 different types, so it all adds up. Then over here on the Stygian Vise belt, like if you're not using a Bisco leash, like I said, go with the Stygian Vise. Triple resist, life, main thing that matters. Anything else is bonus. Abyss gems, we'll talk about the gems in just a second because there's quite a few of them to go through. Now looking at the flasks, I like using the Soul Catcher flask, because what it does is Veil skills deal up to 100%, because this can roll from, you know, like 50, like 60 to 100 or something. Veil skills can deal up to 100% increased damage during effect. Really nice for, you know, if you're going through a boss, let's say you're doing an incursion or you're doing like a beyond mob or something like that, and you just chuck your Veil Blade Vortex at it, you hit your you know, your flask, does a nice chunk of damage to it, and but not necessary to use, but nice to have, maybe something to consider for you. The main things that matter here are going to be your life flask that has a bleed taken off for you to help you with your labs and such, help you with mapping. Bleeding is, you know, you don't want to get too many bleeds on you and then things are going to mess you up. Then you have your adrenaline flask. If you get a Quicksilver flask, I highly recommend you get an adrenaline flask. So much faster movement, just so fast. Like you can take a look at my 126% movement speed right now. I take this off, it's like it doubles my movement speed essentially. It's another like 60%, 60 something percent movement speed. It's like really nice. You just pop that, then you're just shield charging through stuff, just flying across the map. Really nice. And then the other one that would be super important would be a Jade Flask for just giving you some evasion boost. You can see that I have about 18,000 evasion with this setup right here, and we drop down to 6,300 without it. So it's a huge increase of evasion. Now you want to try to search for increased duration, increased evasion rating during Flask effect. Those are some nice things you can have. You don't have to get both, but one or the other is nice. I have a Taste of Hate on here. It's an expensive item to get. This is just a placeholder for any kind of damage one you can get on there. If you can make a Lion's Eye, a Wise Oak work, then go with the Wise Oak. If you get a Taste of Hate, go with that. It just depends on you know, what's gonna, it does give you a big damage increase, but not super needed. But even still, you're fine without it, completely fine without it. Then, but you can also do what you can also do if you don't go with Soul Catcher and you don't go with Taste of Hate, let's say, or you don't go with Wise Oak, you can just get some other flasks that give you like curse removal, like poison removal, and those types of things. Now, moving over to the jewels. So we're looking at this first jewel here, this Murderous Eye jewel. This one has some life, some evasion, some attack speed, which the main things that matter is life first, everything else second on the jewels, and then you can get some damage where you can. But I wanted to point this one out in particular because I highly recommend that you get at least one jewel that has gain onslaught for 4 seconds on kill. 8% chance of your best case scenario. Try to shoot for that. And it's really nice because, you know, you blow up a bunch of monsters, boom, you got onslaught, and you just go through, and it makes it so you don't have to put onslaught in your, you know, in your items. But maybe in the early levels you might do that. But yeah, so highly recommend that. Attack speed's kind of nice to have. Evasion's kind of nice to have. Just get what you can. But as far as like these other things here, so these are hypnotic jewels as well. Now, in order for you to get spell damage increase on an abyss jewel, you have to get a hypnotic jewel. So look for hypnotic jewels, because you can see here I get some added cold damage to spells, some cold damage to spells while holding a shield. These are all the exact same. So I just, you know, just quickly put those in there. But you could even opt to go for a Cobalt Jewel that gives you 7% life and 50 like spell damage while holding a shield, for instance. You could do that too. And if you take a look at the damage, 831 right now. So if we switch to all Cobalt Jewels, it's about the same, you know, it's about the same, a little bit less, and the life is about the same as well. So go either way. Which ones you get, it's up to you. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's all the stuff. That's all I wanted to cover here. If you have any questions about all of this, let me know. You're probably going to want to know, we're going for the 2 passive points here. You could go for a Lyra to get some extra resist and mana regen if you need it. The crit multiplier is not going to really do anything for you. The 2 extra points is nice because we can get to things like phase acrobatics quicker, things like that. As far as the Ascendancy, we already talked about. You're going to be going through Shaper Destilance, go to Beacon of Ruin, then you're going to go Pendulum, then you're going to go Mastermind at Discord, and you're going to start off with leveling with Arc, and then you're going to switch to Veil Blade Vortex when you comfortably can do so, with, say, like Spell Echo, faster casting, and if you have some decent mana regen and things like that. And then just kind of follow the rest of this throughout the leveling process. And if you have any more questions, you can come check out my live stream and ask me right there, and I'll help you out and take a look at your character or whatever, to help you be a little bit better situated in this league. Yeah, but other than that, there's not really much more to talk about. Using your Pantheons, similar to pretty much any build you use. They're situational depending on what you're doing. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Like I said, guys, lots of survivability with this character, lots of damage, lots of mobility, just all around a really good, well-rounded character. Can use it on hardcore, can use it on softcore, and you could just change some of the items based off of what you find and based off of your playstyle and based off of what you can afford and things of that sort. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been having a blast with Blade Vortex in Incursion, and I look forward to it in the Flashback League and farming all those juicy microtransactions, which I plan to do a lot in this league. So anyways, good luck in that, guys. Good luck to you guys out there, and you know, that's it for me. Till next time, guys, my name is Shinobi, and as always, thanks for watching.